Hey, Nerd Herd, Dynasty Nerds here back again. And this time we are kicking off our series of division breakdowns from a Dynasty fantasy football aspect. And we're going to kick it off with the AFC East.
Some of these players might be coming from the AFC least.
Oh, you hate them that much?
Some of
I
them.
like a lot of these guys. There's two very, very interesting teams for Dynasty purposes.
There's some buys. There's some sells. Who are they? Let's check it out.
Ready, set, hut, hut. Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Rich Dotson, and my fellow nerds, Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
Garrett Price.
How's it going?
And Jared Wackerly.
What up?
I'm just cleaning coffee off my desk here because I had a nitro brew and now it's spilled all over the place because Garrett's getting all frisky over here trying to touch me because I haven't seen him in a while.
Nitro on
Missed
you.
you.
Yeah.
You do look like you've been working out.
Doing
Actually,
swole.
I've been on vacation for 12 days, so I haven't worked out in over
It's just a smaller
2.5
shirt.
weeks.
Yeah.
Just a tighter shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. That's the way I
I
go.
don't know, I saw those pictures of you on the beach. I was like, damn, Rich looks like he's kind of jacked.
Well, why don't you like the pictures more then? Put comments on there like, hey, sexy, what are you doing tomorrow?
Sorry, I'll try to.
God, make my wife jealous. For the love of God, somebody say I look good. Please. Point of all this. Trying to look as young as 40, going to be 43 in October.
I won't tell if you won't.
I'm on the verge of death.
Man.
But we're back talking Dynasty Fantasy Football. I think all our vacations are the way. We're pretty much going to be a solid group here for the next for a while, I guess, for
Until
the
we're
most
not.
part. Yeah,
Until one day when we're not.
because this is it. We're on the cusp of the NFL season. Everybody reports today the training camp. It's coming down.
So exciting.
So, of course, we are going to start with our division breakdowns. My favorite thing about these division breakdowns, it gives us a chance to touch on every single player in the league that we feel like that's going to be relevant to your fantasy football season and, more importantly, your Dynasty fantasy football team. So, today we're going to start it off with the AFC East. We're going to do the NFC East on the Nerd Herd episode. So remember, if you're not a member of the Nerd Herd, this is how you're going to get the bonus episodes, the Dynasty GM, the film room, all these fun things, all coming to an app coming soon to a theater near you or to a phone near you.
Yeah.
It's all going to be an app for you. Everything we have, video, rankings, all that fun stuff.
Ice cream coupons.
Whoa, those are going to be in there?
I don't know. If there's everything, that's one thing I'm going to vote for is ice cream
And
coupons.
I think we'll have a promo code
Would
for
they
you next
work
week,
on
right?
like an ice cream truck or just
So
any ice cream in
I
general?
think like probably like Giant Eagle. You could probably use them at Giant Eagle, maybe Walmart,
Okay.
that kind of place. I don't know, like maybe Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
We could work out a sponsorship.
It'd be
deal.
cool if we could get a universal ice cream coupon.
Free
just
ice cream.
anywhere.
Real quick,
No
favorite
matter what.
flavor.
Oh, strawberry, easily, by a million miles.
Strawberry, yeah?
Mint chocolate chip.
Ooh, that's a good choice. Probably Moose Tracks.
I'm a chocolate peanut butter guy.
My least favorite, like I love all food. One of my least favorite things to eat and put in my mouth at all times, chocolate ice cream. Super gross.
Cold take of the year.
Super
Cold
gross.
take.
Super cool.
Indeed.
Listen, everybody, chocolate ice cream, boo-boo butter. I mean, it's like, yeah, then you get a little on your mouth and like, oh, what have you been eating, boo-boo?
Chocolate.
No, that's not what I'd be saying. Nasty butt.
Maybe just don't get it on your mouth.
So these shows are going to be a little bit longer because we have a lot to cover. So we might as well dive in with all this chit-chat. You know, everybody's saying, you guys talk a lot before the show. Well, that's our show. So tune in.
Get used to it. Get used to it. Whoa, don't jinx.
Wow, this guy's telling you what to do. Before we get into the AFC East, before we kick it off with the Buffalo Bills, let me tell you about our friends at Prize Picks. Now, a lot's going to be going on here at Prize Picks soon because the NFL season's coming about around here, right around the corner. So there's going to be a lot of over and unders for the NFL teams. Now, if you just like NFL, that's fine. But they have MMA, golf, baseball, soccer, cricket, I'm sure.
Probably.
If it's a sport, they got over and
Possibly.
unders on it. Right now at Prize Picks, you have an opportunity to get on there. Use the promo code NERDS. They're going to give you 100% instant deposit up to $100. All you got to do is pick 2 to 5 players, the over projections, and you can win up to 10 times your entry. It's just you versus projected numbers. It's not like you have a lot going on there. So Prize Picks is going to allow you to do the mixed sports, like I said. They're going to offer all those different options between MMA to soccer to football, college football, basketball, all that fun stuff. And right now they have the great app on the Apple Store, Google Play. And you get on there right now, use the promo code NERD, make an NFL futures bet or any NFL bet whatsoever. Use the promo code NERDS, plural. And what they're going to do is not only they're going to match that $100 deposit, but on top of that, we are going to send you a free Dynasty Nerds t-shirt.
Yeah, we are.
The most comfortable t-shirt in the world. We just updated our shirt collection not too long ago. We got about 20 NFL team colors on there, so you can make multiple requests on what shirt you want. I will get it out to you personally.
If you filled out the sheet within the last month, I was on vacation, Rich is on vacation. We're a little bit behind on sending them out, but we're going to be getting a large batch out soon.
And I'll be doing that next week. So if you did fill it out, don't be worried. We will get you your shirt 100%, and you get entered to have your team audited in our team audit series. Promo code NERDS. Prize Pick, check it out. Support our sponsor, support us. We're giving you some free stuff. So literally, it's like you put in $10 and you're gonna get a free $10, and you're gonna get the sweetest shirt in the world.
Ever.
I mean, tell me I look like
So
I've been
sexy.
working out, man. Just really the shirt. to
It's
be honest
just
with
the
you.
shirt.
It's just a shirt.
Yeah.
All right.
Can you make one for me that makes it look like I have 6-pack abs?
Listen, I am not Jesus, Garrett. I can't perform miracles.
Just asking.
I got some week 1 lines for who we talking about first?
Buffalo Bills.
Bills.
There you go.
Okay. Stephon Diggs, week 1 versus LA.
LA
Over,
Rams or
under.
Chargers?
This Prize Picks?
67.5 receiving yards.
Oh, over.
Yeah.
It's
I
number
think
one-
that's a
It's
lot.
the number one
Over.
passing team in the NFL. It's a lock.
Yeah.
Stephon Diggs
Gabe
always balls
Davis
out
is
week
going to
one.
have 500 yards and 16 touchdowns.
That's
in
true.
that game. So
That's
is there going to
true.
be any going, enough to go around?
I'll take the over on
Gabe
that.
Davis over under is 51.5.
I'll take Thunder.
Oh. Let's get into it.
Spicy.
All right, let's talk to these Bills, huh? Shall we? I'm taking the over on Diggs, by the way. Buffalo Bills 2022 at QB. They got Josh Allen, Keenan Allen, Case Keenum, and Matt
Keenan
Barkley.
Allen.
Whoa.
So we got Keenan Allen at quarterback, Leonard Fournette at tight end. This is filling out.
Yeah.
Running backs: Devin Singletary, James Cook, Zach Moss, Taekwon Jones, and Duke Johnson. Wide receivers: Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Jamison Crowder, Jake Kumaro, Khalil Shakir, and Isaiah McKenzie. At tight end: Dawson Knox, O.J. Howard, Tommy Sweeney, Jalen Weidemeyer. Some of the new additions here are Jamison Crowder. They bring him in 1-year deal, $4 million. Probably the slot receiver out there, take over for Cole Beasley. They bring in O.J. Howard, $3.5 million on a 1-year deal. And they signed Duke Johnson for $1.2 million. And we'll see if he even makes a team now that they signed. They drafted James Cook in the second round. So let's start off at the top. With Josh Allen. Arguably the number 1 quarterback in Dynasty Fantasy Football today. Coming off back-to-back quarterback 1 years. I know you guys talked about it last week.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, he's the first one to do that since going all the way back to Dante Culpepper. And that was like 2003, 2004. The potential to be the quarterback 1 overall for the 3rd straight year. It's only been done twice, I believe. Steve Young, Brett Favre did it. And those are both in the 90s, I think, in back-to-back years. So he has a chance to do something pretty special here at quarterback 1. I know you guys did a debate. Can he do it on the YouTube channel, one of those YouTube shorts? So I wonder how that comes out here. This is somebody who's just coming a year, and every year he's got a little bit better, right? Just better throwing the football. Some of his metrics throwing the football, like he still makes some things, like he makes up for it with his dynamics, but like he's still getting better every single year, which is a nice thing to see here. He's on a team that throws the football a ton. Like pretty much nobody throws the football more than the Buffalo Bills. They consistently throw it week in, week out. Dominant throwing the football here. Is Josh Allen your guys' number 1 overall dynasty quarterback right now?
He's definitely number 1 for redraft. I don't know about dynasty for me. I don't know. What do you think, Matt?
He's in the conversation. I can't remember exactly where I have him, so I don't want to say he is. But if he's not 1, he's 2. Right. You know what I mean? Like it's 1 or
it's him or Mahomes.
Yep.
I mean, he's somebody that just. I mean, it's his rushing ability that's so dynamic. When he gets in there in the red zone, he's going to score touchdowns, which is a huge detriment to his running game, right? To his running backs. I mean, this is a player that comes in. He's only one of 10 players with 30-plus rushing touchdowns. I think going back over the last 4 years or so. So he's consistent. And, just like Jalen Hurts, when he gets inside that 5-yard line, 10-yard line, though, the running game is what's going to take the biggest hit.
And I was surprised because that was one thing I really thought they were going to do this offseason was kind of address that, protect their franchise quarterback a little bit more. And there were so many bigger, more physical running backs in this year's class. We had between the 3rd and 4th round guys like Brian Robinson, Isaiah Spiller, Zamir White, like lots of big-bodied physical running backs. For them to take one of the few 3rd down satellite type backs was surprising to me because I thought that was the one thing that they were going to want to change. But they're just leaning more into this pass heavy attack, which only spells good things for Josh Allen because that means gives him another passing weapon. and it doesn't take away from his rushing. I still think he's going to be rushing inside the 10, inside the 5, and he's going to be getting those touchdowns.
It does seem like they've kind of settled in as him as the big back,
Yes.
right? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like that's what it's starting to feel like with all these moves. So you got to love his upside. We said on the thing, what did I give him, like a 7 or 8? On a scale,
good odds.
Yeah, on a scale of
On
1
the
to 10.
likely-o-meter?
Yeah, the likely. Thank you.
Everyone's favorite game.
Couldn't remember what that was actually called. The likely-o-meter.
When you get him inside the 5-yard line, it becomes Josh Allen's show, right? Because then the running backs do take a big step back, whether it be in the passing game or the running game. They're in the bottom third when it comes to targets to running backs and rushing attempts inside the 5-yard line. They just put it in Josh Allen's hands, and why not? Because he gets the job done. Which goes to the running game, Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary last year coming into it was somebody that was okay. He was running back 18 in 2021. But weeks 1 through 14, he was running back 34 overall. Weeks 15 through 18, that last hard stretch, he was running back 1 overall. So he was the number 1 running back there. Buffalo hasn't had a running back 1 since LaShawn McCoy in 2017. He was running back 7. I think he was even higher a year before that. So what's going to hurt Devin Singletary. So off of those numbers, we're like, oh, he's running back 1 and a year, right? Like he dominated, but he got a little bit more active in the receiving game. So he had a really good rushing games, over 100 yards in week 17, touchdowns in every single week. Had 5 receptions in week 16, 2 receptions in week 18. Had a couple receptions there in a wild card divisional round. They really just went to Devin Singletary full time. But you mentioned, Garrett, they draft James Cook in the 2nd round. It's a very high draft pick for a running back.
Right.
James Cook specializes in the receiving game. So he's going to take all that away from Devin Singletary. So what I look at Devin Singletary is, one, for his ADP and his value, he's really good value, definitely in redraft, right? Because of what he's going to give you as a starting running back. And we don't know where James Cook is going to slide in there. I know the GM said, hey, we're going to definitely use him in 3rd down, but if he can find a role in between those downs, we'll use him. So they're kind of putting the ball literally in James Cook's hands there to see. So what I'm predicting is that, Devin Singletary early in the season is going to get a little bit of carries, James Cook on 3rd down, and as he slowly kind of comes along and learns a playbook and, picks things up, he'll be a second half of the season kind of running back. So I think Devin Singletary for me is a hold right now, unless you can kind of sell off of that end of 2021 production. Mm-hmm. But right around week 3, when people are desperate for running backs, somebody's get banged up, so get hurt, I think Devin Singletary is going to be a really nice sell, and I think the value will be flipped for where it's going to be at the end of the season next year.
I mean, I think that's a smart move. I mean, he's also in the last year of his deal, and if they've already drafted James Cook this year, what's really stopping them from finally getting that big back next year in the draft and kind of having a big back and then James Cook? So I do think Devin Singletary is a guy that showed you last year what he can do in small bursts, but I also don't think the Bills trust him to have that kind of workload over the whole length of a 17-game season.
Like they did the final 7 games where he was a 3-down back.
Absolutely. So
and he dominated there too, because his yards after contact, his missed tackles forced, missed, all that. He did really well there.
And that's why I think what you're saying is probably a really good strategy for him and a good way to handle him if you do have him on your roster. This might be the time to kind of get rid of him before his he falls off the cliff.
The real
basically.
decline.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at this point, Zach Moss is just filler.
Yep, he's a guy. I think they've tried to have him be the guy, but he's just has proven over and over again that he's just
not dynamic enough of an athlete.
Yep.
Done. Dynasty value almost to a screechy halt, because at this point, even Devin, they use him on early downs, but it's going to be James Cook after Devin Singletary. And I think that's the combo we're looking to.
Yeah,
but
they want explosive athletes, and they want guys that if there's a dump off pass from Allen or something, they can go do something with it. And that's not Zach Moss.
And it's still limited, though, by Josh Allen. Josh Allen limits this. Again, you're talking about a team that throws the football a ton. Nobody, I had the stats in here how much I threw the football, but nobody throws the football more pretty much in the Buffalo Bills where they go out there, which helps obviously, Stephon Diggs. When you go back to 2020, he led the league in receptions. He had 127, dominated with over 1,500 receiving yards. Even 2021 wasn't bad. Over 100 receptions, over 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns. Still very solid. And
Josh Allen was 4th in the league in attempts.
In attempts?
Yep.
4th in the league. Okay.
Yep. So Mahomes, Herbert, and Brady were ahead of him.
Okay.
It was like 5 per game from Brady.
Right. Well, and they run a ton of plays too. They're 6th in the NFL in plays per game, so they run at a pretty quick pace. They're throwing down the field a lot, and they're going to continue to get in some shootouts. I know that they look to improve the defense, and it will be a little bit better, but don't get it wrong. It's still an offensive-led football team. They're going to be looking to win these games 35-27 more than they are 17-14,
and especially in the regular season. You know what I mean? Like
Correct.
that's all we care about for fantasy purposes.
Yep.
And for Diggs, gets a new contract extension as well, makes him a top tier, about 28, but I think it pushes him closer to that top tier of fantasy receivers. I was talking to Matt about this. I want to talk about it after we do these breakdowns about, I want to do a show right before the season of, we have Justin Jefferson, we have Jamar Chase, right? Those guys are the
Clear
1-2 dynasty receivers. And over the last couple decades, we've always had a couple of those top tier guys in that range, whether it be DeAndre Hopkins, Larry Fitz, there's multiple guys. Right now, it's pretty much Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Then you guys got like Diggs, Hopkins is older, Diggs is older, Amari Cooper's older. Debo's somewhat of a question mark, kind of somewhat faded the second half of the season last year. Not in a bad way, but somewhat of a step down. Who is it? CeeDee Lamb, who's a clear-cut choice.
Prime candidate for that.
Is it Michael Pittman Jr.? Like, who is that next breakout receiver? You know what I mean? Like, if you look at the landscape of dynasty wide receivers right now, like, it is deep. But when it comes to, like, superstardom, like, young guys,
There's two.
And that's
AJ Brown, I would put up there too.
Definitely in the conversation. but
I would not put AJ Brown there. We'll talk about him when we get to the Eagles.
Yeah, I would put him there, but I don't think he's going to reach that echelon anytime soon just because of the raw targets that he's going to get isn't going to be even close to some of those other players, and his quarterback play isn't going to be as good as players like Joe Burrow and Kirk Cousins. So I understand that. But going back to Stephon Diggs, I think he's incredibly talented. I know it's tempting to start fading some of these wide receivers, but at 28, we could still expect 3 good seasons.
He's 20. He's going to be 29. He's
during the season.
During the season, yeah.
Okay,
Still 3 good seasons.
still probably 3 good seasons. At least 2, but more than likely 3, especially with the money that they're paying him and the way he plays. I think that also plays in a factor as well.
I agree.
He's such a technician, such a good route runner that spells your longevity a little bit. But as far as the rest of the wide receivers go, it's looking like it could be Gabe Davis is here to finally be that guy. Do you think he's going to get to that point?
I mean, it sounds like they're trusting him to be that, right? I mean, what else is really there? Jamison Crowder is a slot guy. I mean, we all know that, right? Who else, even on the team, could fill that role as a number 2?
I mean, Isaiah McKenzie's been running with the ones so far in the slot.
Okay.
They'll probably split reps at the slot there. Him, Isaiah McKenzie, and Crowder. They're going to kind of eat each other a little bit more. Even last year, when it was McKenzie and Beasley, they split. Like, nobody played more than 50% of the slot out there. So it's going to really be Gabe Davis, and it's going to be Stephon Diggs. And you also have the tight end, Dawson Knox.
And O.J. Howard as well. And this team right now is 10th in percentage of vacated targets. So they have the 10th most available targets compared to the rest of the NFL. 31%, almost 32% of their targets. And that's basically Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders last year. Were both part of this offense, played really well in this offense, but neither one has returned. So it does open up some opportunities for Gabe Davis to emerge, Isaiah McKenzie, all of these things, and even Khalil Shakir eventually.
It opens a ton of opportunity for Gabe Davis. And yeah, Khalil Shakir, nice stash, but he's a stash at this point. Because maybe the only way you need Davis to leave and get a big contract, right? Because odds of him getting one there in Buffalo are slim. Gabe Davis, a lot of hype about him. You see his ADP skyrocket. You see him go in some of these drafts here in best ball, go a little bit higher. Then you'd be like, wow, Gabe Davis, right? Is this warranted, is the question in Dynasty Fantasy Football. Let's talk about it. You're talking about a receiver who, over the first 2 years of his career so far, has had 18 touchdowns. Phenomenal. Just turned 23, so he's still super young. He's a guy who hasn't got a ton of targets in his first couple of years.
Are those 18 including playoffs or not including playoffs?
Including playoffs.
Okay.
18 total touchdowns. But this is a guy who's young, and this is a team that I mentioned before, the Bills throw it a ton. The Buffalo Bills are first last year in targets to their wide receivers. So nobody threw the football to their wide receiver more in 2021 than the Buffalo Bills. And they were second in 2020. So this is a team that loves to throw the football, which puts Josh Allen in a position to support multiple high-end wide receivers. And he's actually had 2 top 20 receivers over the last 2 years. Obviously, Cole Beasley had a good year as well. So the way they throw the football, they can support 2 really good receivers. And if Gabe Davis can stretch the field and pick up where he left off last year, he's going to be a top 24 fantasy receiver. Josh Allen has shown that he can support this. It's can Gabe Davis put together. Do you think where would you think the value is on Gabe Davis right now? Like in Dynasty, because it's a question mark. You want to say, hey, I don't know if I'm totally in on Gabe Davis, but the way they run the football, the way they throw the football, all signs point you have a 23-year-old big receiver here that has shown that he can get it done. He's shown that he score touchdowns, which is fantasy football gold here. His price tag has gone up, but do you think it's a worthwhile price tag to invest in?
I think,
or is it Kenny Galladay?
Right now we're looking at roughly. I think his last ADP I saw was he was wide receiver 25. So like right around that fringe wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. Right. I think that's about right because you're buying him based on assuming that he can get to a wide receiver 2 type season.
Right.
It's tough for me to buy someone without the draft capital, without the production, because up to this point during the season he has 2 500-yard seasons. So he hasn't necessarily shown that he can do it. But with the vacated targets, there's a path for that to happen. So it really comes down to, is it going to be 2 receivers and everybody else, or is it going to be 1 main receiver and then 3 or 4 other receivers that get a lot of action as well? And that's what I don't know at this point.
Superflex ADP, he's wide receiver 39 as of July 13th, sleeper ADP.
It's a little 39 higher now.
Yeah.
It's got to be higher now. But, I mean, look what the Bills have done, too. They've only
then at that price tag, buy all day.
Yeah. They've only brought in slot guys. They let Emmanuel Sanders go. They let Cole Beasley go. They're bringing Jamison Crowder slot. Khalil Shakir most likely slot. They haven't brought any other receivers. So, Gabe Davis is locked in and the 2 receiver sets.
And his snap share last year was under 50%. It was like 49.3%. And even if you just look at Emmanuel Sanders from last year, he was up at like the 77, almost 78% snap share. So you would expect there to be some sort of jump this year as far as snap percentage. So you should see, I mean, obviously he's going to eclipse the 500-yard mark. But is it going to be 900? Or 1,000. Yeah, is it going to be 900 or is it going to, which is, wide receiver 3, very low end wide receiver 2 type of stuff, depending on touchdowns, or is he going to get in that 1,100 type of yards,
8 touchdowns?
And I think that goes to your point. Like, is there going to be 2 guys, or is there going to be 3 or 4 guys? After, or 2 guys after Diggs, or is it going to be just him?
After digging into this, after digging into the Bills and breaking them down here, I feel way more comfortable about Gabe Davis. Like, I would invest in Gabe Davis. I think there's a very good chance if you can get Gabe Davis as your wide receiver 3, I think there's a very good chance he finishes as a top 24 fantasy football receiver. I think the Bills will end up as a team that has one of those 4 teams that supports 2 wide receiver 2s, essentially. There's usually about 4 teams that have that right around there. There's never been more than 6.
They throw the ball enough, and he's a unique guy for that team too. He's 6'3". They have him listed at like 213, but they said he came into camp like 228 or something, 227. So he's a big-bodied guy as well. So that's something that you're not getting from like a Diggs or anyone else really from the team. So he's unique in that respect. And
he fits their scheme, what they want to do well. I mean, James Cook throws a little bit of a wrench in there, just for passes where they're going.
Taking a little bit of the target share.
Sure. But this team's not going to all of a sudden just switch gears, right? They're not going to just switch. I know Brian Daboll's no longer the offensive coordinator there, but they're not just going to switch what they've had an incredible amount of success doing and, all the above. And, almost go on the brink of going to the Super Bowl. They're going to do what they're going to keep. Right. They didn't add a dynamic runner to the game. Yes, Devin Singletary looked good at the end of the year as a 3-down back, but he won't be the 3-down back fully this year. You don't invest a second-round pick in a guy like James Cook not to utilize him.
And Josh Allen's one of the lowest check-down percentage quarterbacks every single year. He's not checking it down. So when they get James Cook involved, it's going to be on designed routes. It's not going to just be
Which is something he did also in college. I mean, he split out wide and did all that kind of stuff. So it won't be foreign.
And then you have Dawson Knox. He's going to come in, finally be the full-time tight end. Obviously, they're bringing J.J. Howard, too, who's extremely talented, really good blocker. For sure. Dawson Knox came in last year, had 9 touchdowns. So 71 targets, scored 9 touchdowns on those.
I was going to say,
targets.
He's the guy that screams regression to me. I think there are better tight ends in that range that you could be drafting ahead of OJ Howard for me, or ahead of Dawson Knox for me.
I think I read Dawson Knox was the number 2 fantasy relevant tight end last year that his fantasy points relied on touchdowns behind Hunter Henry.
Well,
Hunter Henry.
besides
Yep.
Hunter Henry,
Makes
had like
sense.
600 yards and double-digit touchdowns.
Henry, man. That dude was scoring like a
touchdowns
touchdown
you
every
can't
week, I
rely
feel
on.
like. Yeah, absolutely.
It's the biggest question mark. But, I mean, if Dawson Knox finished around 9 touchdowns again, this team's going to score points. They have a really good defense. They have a really good quarterback. Josh Allen's going to stretch the field, put the ball where it needs to be. I think Gabe Davis taking another step forward here is going to help. Obviously, so Josh Allen's top 3 Dynasty Fantasy Football quarterback. There is a tier. It is Justin Herbert, Pat Mahomes, and Josh Allen in my eyes. Then you have Stephon Diggs, who's in clear-cut wide receiver 2 territory. I think Gabe Davis is into that.
Wait, you have Stephon Diggs in wide receiver 2 territory?
Tier 2.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
tier 2. Sorry.
Tier 2. He's in that tier 2.
I heard wide receiver 2.
I was like,
also.
whoa.
I did say that. And then Gabe Davis has a chance to enter that third tier.
I was about to give him a high five.
Like, yeah, we're on the same team now.
So, I mean, outside of that, you have James Cook, who's a rookie. I don't know how much I'd be willing to invest in him. I think the best buy here would be Gabe Davis for the Buffalo Bills for Dynasty.
If his ADP is at 39, then I'm absolutely all in. I thought it was earlier.
Yeah.
I'd honestly pay. I'd pay
I checked. I
wide
triple
receiver
checked.
25.
What would you
That's
guys?
wild.
What would you guys pay to get him on the team? Like how much draft capital specifically? How much would you
PPR is
guys-
wide receiver 44.
2 seconds? I don't think I could get a
I don't think that would.
I
get
don't
it
think I would
done.
do. That's what I was wondering if anyone would say it first.
If he's wide receiver 39 though. I mean, think about where you're drafting wide receiver 39 in a startup. That's round 10, 11.
I think he's still under the radar, like in most leagues, like playing leagues with your buddies. I think he's.
I would
still,
offer Calvin Ridley.
He's clearly not within the community.
yeah, I mean, I would give
within
Ridley.
the dynasty.
Plus-
Yeah,
you
if
know,
you're on Twitter and
stuff.
stuff,
Right.
like that's all people are talking about.
Right.
I mean, I'd try and throw like a big name at like DeAndre Hopkins, maybe his way, and take that gamble. Listen, when you play Dynasty, these are the
live with
kind
that.
to get a player like this. It's on the cusp, right? That has a potential to take a big step forward to be the wide receiver 2. Like this is that fork in the road.
It definitely
I got-
helps the
right?
vacated targets are there.
Right? Like you gotta like this is the price you want to buy at right here. Now could it fail? Yeah, but these are the risks you take in Dynasty Fantasy Football to make your team a dynasty.
I pulled some trades from the trade browser tool in the Dynasty GM. Gabriel Davis in a second for Julio Jones, and obviously that's a smash.
It's a terrible trade.
Yeah, Travis Etienne for Allen Robinson and Gabriel Davis.
Okay, I'll take ETN.
I'd take the ETN side also.
Got Cole Kmet straight up for Gabriel Davis.
Ooh, where you at, G?
Yeah, where you at, Garrett? This is the one that I was like,
I'll take Gabe Davis.
I'll take Cocomet.
Yeah, of course.
interesting. Okay.
Those are interesting. So those are all pretty. Like I feel very comfortable putting some of those players on the line for Gabe Davis. So I would recommend in your dynasty league, go out there and try and make some offers. See what you have to see what your dynasty team has to offer, right? Because again, it's easy to say in a vacuum, like, oh yeah, trade this for that, trade Julio Jones, but you don't have Julio Jones. So
Right.
jump on the dynasty GM. Just again, this is exactly what's so great about the dynasty GM. Jump on there, see who has Gabe Davis, see what their weaknesses are, and see where you could fill that weakness.
Exploit.
If you, I think Gabe Davis is somebody too. I have no problem investing like a 25 first for. You know what I mean? Like something that's like a couple of years down the road that I have a chance to recoup the gamble on. Like I like to do that a lot. Like I've done it for guys that miss, like Brian Edwards. I've done that for like at the time when he was a rookie, I gave a 24 first for him. You know what I mean? But sometimes it hits too. Like I do the same thing for players that have come along and hit. So those usually get
No-name players that have come along.
All the ones that have hit.
all of them.
All of them.
I'm trying. I had to think. There's multiple guys that. I mean, I did it for Elijah Moore. I've done that for Elijah Moore. I've done it for a lot of times. Like these guys go in the second round, right?
Sure.
Like Elijah Moore's, Brian
The
Edwards,
11 to 15 range there.
and
I'm just busting.
and
your
guys
chops.
that have a like late round first. You know what I mean? I'll be like, okay, I'll give you my first in 2024, and it's 2022.
Sure,
You know what I mean?
sure.
Multiple years down the road. So
This year would be like a Jahan Dotson range guy, somebody like that.
yeah. And my biggest sell here would be for me, Devin Singletary. But I'm waiting until about week 2 in the season, right around there. Maybe a big preseason game from him.
Right after an injury happens.
You have a lot of ammunition to back up if you dig into here in some of these stats about his yards after contact, his forced missed tackles, the fact that he was running back 1 the last 4 games of the season. You have a lot of ammunition to help kind of build that sales sheet essentially.
absolutely.
To back up to get yourself a good return. I love to use Devin Singletary, maybe a first at like get a really good upgrade at running back because I think that's my favorite sell here. So Gabe Davis is my favorite buy, and Devin Singletary is my favorite sell for the Buffalo Bills, which has a ton of dynasty value on it. Shall we move on?
Let's
Move
do it.
on.
Yep.
Let's talk about the Miami Dolphins. Matt, that's a great shirt you got over there. Our Miami Dolphins themed shirt.
Oh, I have the Bills on, don't I?
I had to.
You're the Patriots.
Patriots, that's right.
Yeah, I had to wear it.
Close enough.
Did you say that was the
enough.
Bills?
I mean, they're all blue, white, and red. Like, there's like 8 teams. That
But there's a
are
lighter blue.
That's pretty far off.
That's pretty navy.
Blue.
Yeah, it's pretty navy.
Colorblind.
Yeah,
Too much.
Did you guys see the Giants' New Jersey colors? They look exactly like the Bills. Somebody commented on Twitter.
Oh, really?
Commented on Twitter how Brian Daybell's turning the Giants
into the Bills.
into the Bills, so hopefully they'll be better.
That's funny.
They were one of those new the old school unis this year. They look sweet.
I know.
I love all those old school unis.
do too.
They're busting out. Even the Patriots one,
Yeah.
which I used to hate back when it was actually the Patriots jersey. But this is the worst jersey in the NFL. Now I look at it, I'm like, oh, that's sweet. Bring it back. Bring it
I
back.
hate the Bumblebee jerseys from the Steelers.
Oh, those are the worst.
Those are the ugliest
terrible.
jerseys in football.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing beats the Chargers baby blues.
I mean, they're tan pants.
As
with
good
bumblebee-
jerseys, not
it's
bad,
just-
right?
I love the baby blues.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
my favorite. Oh, yeah.
You
With the
said it
yellow
right after bad ones.
Dude,
I was like,
the
wait.
powder blue with the yellow pants, with
Dude.
the lightning bolt. Oh,
I wanted that LaDainian Tomlinson jersey was like
Best.
the iconic.
I own it.
Yeah,
I own
sick.
it. It's in my
Best-
it's in my closet. 'cause
best
it's one of
uniforms.
my all-time favorites.
Easy.
So easy. Even there's no like they have a lot of cool stuff coming out this year. Like the Bengals, all white,
White helmets.
white helmet with the black stripes and
Dude,
a white
sweet.
shirt.
Yeah.
White
Sweet.
helmets
Sweet.
are dope. Black helmets are dope. All these other colored ones, I don't know.
What the Texans battle red?
I didn't hate that one.
I'll meet you at the Alamo. I don't hate it either.
I didn't hate it.
The only helmet I really hated was when the Jaguars did that like fade, like or
That
faded,
one
the
was
black,
bad.
the, like
I like the Seahawks. Those
the gradient.
that
The
lime
Seahawks,
green
yeah, the Seahawks pretty sweet.
I could live
color
without
rush.
Oh yeah.
it. I could live without it.
Anyway, Dolphins.
Yep.
Dolphins,
Anyway.
Miami Dolphins. Look at the roster at quarterback. They have Tua Tagovailoa, Teddy Bridgewater, Skylar Thompson. At running back, Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, Sony Michel, Myles Gaskin, and Zaquandre White. At wide receiver, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Cedric Wilson, Mohamed Sanu, Preston Williams, Eric Izukanama,
Yes.
Nailed it.
Trent Sheffield. Tight end, Mike Gesicki, Durham Smythe, Adam Shaheen, and Hunter Long. Of course, now they added a ton of running backs. They're bringing Chase Edmonds of the Cardinals. He signs a 2-year, $12.1 million deal. He signs it. Everybody gets real excited. Like, whoa, Chase Edmonds, skyrocket. First guy to sign. Good money. Then they signed Raheem Mostert. Also, a former Mike McDaniel running back out of San Francisco for a 1-year, $3.1 million deal. And then they signed Sony Michel. I don't know how much they signed him for, but they signed him. And I think a big thing here, Talon, is they signed a fullback, Alec Ingold, for 2 years, $6.5 million. Why is that a big deal? Because it tells me they're going to run the football. It's the kind of system that Shanahan, McDaniels runs.
Yep. It's definitely part of it.
Really going to
He's
hurt.
the use check.
And they're going to really hurt the 3 wide receiver sets that you thought you had the value in Cedric Wilson.
But
in.
no one's really used Jack because that guy's
That's
got
true.
a
He's
unique
awesome.
skill set. Yeah.
They bring-
as far as
He's from
catching-
Medina, isn't he? Or
He's from around
He's
here.
from like Westlake.
He's Garrett Price.
well, yes.
They do sign Cedric Wilson too to a 3-year, $22 million
Yes.
deal, which is crazy because then they end eventually train for Tyreek Hill, which is a big deal. So they bring in a new coach, Mike McDaniel, who's probably going to run a lot of the Kyle Shanahan offense there. He brought in offensive coordinator Frank Smith. He worked on the offensive line over there and with the tight ends. So I think he did say, though, he didn't call plays in San Francisco, but he is going to call plays here in Miami. So for me, this is a team, again, that it's a weird team going into it. And we just had Tyreek Hill come out and say, hey, Tua Tagovailoa, the most accurate quarterback in the NFL. No, not even close. I mean, his deep ball numbers are not very good.
I mean, he said he wasn't a gunslinger. I think he meant mid to intermediate range.
Dude, I have some things here.
I
like
concur.
PFF grades when he threw the ball downfield over 20 yards. In his overall grade, he was 20th. In yards per attempt, he was okay. He was number 2 there. Adjusted completion percentage, he was 55.2%. So that was best, actually. So it wasn't too bad there.
See?
QB rating, he was 27th overall. But right now, what I was really thinking about Tua is the help that he has, right? Like, can he keep stuff short and simple for these guys like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle? Obviously, Jalen Waddle comes out, was absolutely dynamic last year, wide receiver 1. They bring in Tyreek Hill, hurts Jalen Waddle a ton. But I was like, what can Tyreek Hill do to help Jalen Tua Tagovailoa as well. So I went back and looked at Tyreek Hill in Kansas City winning Alex Smith. In 2016, it was Tyreek Hill's rookie year. Came out as wide receiver 25. Alex Smith was QB 22. But in his sophomore year, Tyreek Hill was wide receiver 9 in 2017. Alex Smith was QB 4 overall. So Alex Smith finished the year as QB 4 overall. Big help too. Because of Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
So do you think Tua's value in Dynasty, it's still, he hasn't seen a skyrocket even with all these new values here. Where do you guys look at Tua in Dynasty? And with these very dynamic weapons here he has in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, who both can do a ton after the catch.
I mean, I think it obviously gets boosted because, I mean, that's, like you said, he's not a strong, I don't think he's got a strong arm. How about that? His deep balls, I was just looking at, fantasydata.com. He had a 50% completion percentage on deep passes. So that's one of the better rates out there. So it's not like he's terrible at it. I just don't think he's got a super strong arm, but he is really, I think, accurate, close, and on the close throws and intermediate throws. And that's where guys like Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill can explode and make huge plays out of just small dump off passes. So it's only going to help him, I think, to have both those guys on the team. And Gesicki's another weapon down the middle that can also break off some plays here and there as well. So you combine that with a nice, strong running game, which is a staple of any sort of Kyle Shanahan type of offense, and you're going to get easy throws. You're going to get him on the move on rollouts and stuff like that, where he's only having to read half the field, and it's going to be quick, easy decisions, and it's all going to spell good things for him. I don't think he's ever going to be a quarterback one type of guy, but I think this boosts him up in Superflex to that middle to high QB2 range for sure. Type of move
for him to get higher, he has to be able to throw the ball deep, which he has not done yet. Yes, he's done it okay, but he just hasn't done it. I mean, his average depth of throw last year was 7.4. That was in the bottom 5 amongst all qualifying quarterbacks.
The good news is, though, and this only emphasizes Matt's point even more, the two type of receivers that they have, even though you traditionally think of speed threats as deep threats, that's not how they've been utilized in the NFL and not how they've been utilized in college. So they really got two guys that fit with it. Not that they can't go deep.
Yeah.
Tyreek has been used deep.
He has been.
Because he just, they're play schoolyard ball basically there in Kansas City.
But even his average depth of target was below average. So it was, even with Patrick Mahomes, he was still doing a lot of stuff close to the line of scrimmage.
Last year, especially because the defenses adjusted, they took away the deep stuff, and they needed to do all that dump off type.
So
stuff.
there's going to be a lot of crossing routes, a lot of slants. Even I see them utilizing both of those players in the backfield at times, just like we saw with Deebo Samuel. Right. So I think the offense is going to be creative enough, and I think Tua is a good enough quarterback. Will he ever be a top 8 fantasy quarterback? Probably not. But could he live forever from 9 to 15? I think he could. I think he could be a very solid asset for fantasy football, but he's never going to carry your team.
I think because of the QBs, the receiving weapons he has, and even out of the backfield, some of the pass catching running back options he has there, he does have an opportunity to be a QB1, just like Alex Smith was in 2017 because of the weapons he does have. And the fact that he can get the ball under 8 yards on the line of scrimmage and let his receivers do the work afterwards.
I think if I'm somebody that has 2 on my team, I'm happy to see the jump this year if he gets up in that high end quarterback 2 range, and we'll see where it goes, and we'll see how the season goes if he ends up, if I end up having expectations of him being a QB1 in the future. But right now, if I got that little low end QB or the high end QB2 numbers, I'm really
ecstatic.
Happy. Yeah,
I'm
really
ecstatic. If QB 16 or higher, I'm ecstatic.
And to your point earlier about the deep ball throws, he was 30th last year in attempts on deep throws.
Yeah, he was. They were.
They
not
just didn't
good.
try.
But 50% completion percentage on that tops everybody. So he was number 1 with Kyler Murray. He was tied with Kyler Murray.
Yeah, it's a team that just did not put the football deep. But now again, new coach, new system.
Everything's different.
This is honestly for me, I think the Dolphins are one of the most teams I'm most excited to see how it plays out. To see how these assets move, how they utilize it, and where Mike McDaniel finds his money pieces at, right? Because this has a potential to be a very dynamic dynasty offense. So for me, out of all these new coaches, new systems, new players out of the team, I think the Dolphins are number one on my list to like watch and see.
The funny part is I'm with you. They're one of my top teams. One of the other top teams is also in this division. So we'll be breaking down them in a second.
Okay. Looking forward to that. And let's move on to the running game here.
Yeah, that's the big
So
question mark.
here's the biggest question. You're right. Here's the big question mark because Mike McDaniels has a history of producing high-end running backs, getting the most out of them. We mentioned the running back numbers. If we look at their cap numbers this year, something's not going to fix. These running backs all can't just be on the roster. This year, Edmonds, $5.5 million, Gaskins, $2.5 million, Mostert, $1.9 million. Michelle, I don't know what their money is.
1.75 this year.
1.75.
Yep, it's just a one-year deal.
Is there anybody here, Matt, how many of these guys can they just cut outright and not owe anything to?
Ahmed, Salvan Ahmed. However that
he's making $175,000.
Yeah, he's making like
Ahmed.
absolutely nothing. They can totally get rid of him right now.
Ahmed's gone for sure.
Yeah. Miles Gaskin, surprisingly, I mean, he counts like 2.5 million, but his dead money is almost nothing. So they could cut him. He has $21,000 of dead money. So I mean, it's basically nothing. They can cut him right now and really have no ramifications, and then they won't have to pay him the $2.5 million. So he's the guy that I think
is gone.
So
So you probably want to sell gas. And the reason I ask that is because like some of these guys still hold value in the eyes.
But if they see,
you probably want to sell.
If they see something in camp, they can hold on to him. They have the sixth most cap money in the league right now. They have a little over 16 million. So if they see something or an injury happens, they can also hold on to the guy as well. So this is a very tricky situation. I wouldn't just outright dump the guy right this very second because he's still in the mix, just because they have the cap money to do it. But he's probably down the pecking order because they signed all these guys kind of ahead of him.
And it's their guys versus the holdovers.
So, I mean, I'm leaning towards him being a guy that you can get rid of or write off here as far as the offense goes. But you never know, especially in this offense where, I mean, we don't have a track record on Mike McDaniels, but in Kyle Shanahan's offense, it seemed like whoever emerged just emerged. They didn't really give a crap what they were paying people or where they drafted them or anything like that. It was whoever was going to be most effective in the offense. So while he's the easiest guy to just say you can get rid of because they can and they didn't sign him, it's still who the heck knows type of situation for me.
Chase Edmonds slides in as the most pass-catching capable running back in this offense. So he's the person they're paying the most money to. So he seems like the likely starter. I'm still all in on Mostert. He's one of my favorite buys in Dynasty for how cheap he is. I think he obviously was just cleared from.
He just got cleared. Yep.
Chipping that cartilage week 1. Mm-hmm. He's so explosive. He knows the offense really well. Coming from an offense. So I think Mostert and Edmonds are in the line to share carries early on. Mm-hmm. I could see Mostert being the starter running back, that 1-2 running back, and then Chase Edmonds playing on third down here.
The tough part is they brought in Sony too, and
he could be the guy too.
We know that down in the goal line, they are not afraid of the ground and pound. And actually last year, Sony Michel, this was one of like the odd factoids. He was actually one of the top 5. He was 5th in most touches inside the red zone last year for the Rams. So he's a guy that is used to getting the ball around the goal line, and they might be looking at him as this goal line back, which they've done before with like Malcolm Brown and stuff like that in Miami. But Kyle Shanahan's done that with Jeff Wilson and different players like that as being like their more red zone goal line specialist type guys. So it's going to make all of these guys almost irrelevant, which is tough.
And all those systems are related too. Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan worked together back in Washington.
Yep, in Washington.
So, I mean, and obviously Mike McDaniel coming from the same system as well. So it's not a big leap to say Sony Michel can perform well, because I think he performed. That was probably the best we've seen out of Sony Michel last year. You know what I mean? So I think he can. They've seen what he can do in this offense. They brought him there.
The Patriots playoff run was pretty sweet.
Yeah, you know,
best since his rookie.
Best since then.
Sony Michel's RB70 off the board. Mostert's RB65 and Chase Edmonds RB36 in startup ADP.
Yeah, I like Mostert for ADP value the most. That's the guy who I've been trying to trade for and get a lot of shares for, like very casual. Like, oh, do I just use some depth here? Can I get Mostert off you for like a 4th?
Casual. And I didn't realize or remember. Maybe it's I just don't remember. I didn't realize that it was like such a bad knee injury. He made it sound like in some of his comments that he was getting reports back that it might be career threatening, and that he was like thanking God that he was able to get back and like trusted the system and the medicine and faith and all that kind of stuff.
It took a while
to get back. Yeah.
Week 1 last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So almost a full year for recovery time. And we say Edmonds is the pass catcher running back. He is, again, new system, so this doesn't really matter. But when you go look at last year, this was a team that was not throwing the football a ton to the running backs. Now, again, they had a worse running game probably in the NFL last year too. So I take notes like that. I kind of like just sweep them under the rug a little bit because it's somewhat meaningless. All new running backs, whole new system. So like some of those stats that Tua didn't throw the football running back a ton, but at the same time, you do have to worry about Waddle and Hill on the line of scrimmage. Will those opportunities be there for Chase Edmonds to catch the football, even if he is the starter running back there? And of course, you have Gesicki over the middle, a tight end that they did franchise this year. Who, again, it's weird because they signed Cedric Wilson, but Gesicki was basically a wide receiver last year. So they signed Cedric Wilson to play in the slot, but it was Gesicki last year
and that
played in the slot a ton.
The Wilson money doesn't make a ton of sense. Obviously, the timing of it was such that they didn't have Hill on the team yet, and then they paid him all the money. So it's going to be interesting. That one I think they could end up probably regretting quite a bit, but they can get out after like next year in that Cedric Wilson deal. Yeah,
because it doesn't make sense. I mean, Gesicki's a big wide receiver. If I asked you how many times that Gesicki was asked to pass block last year, what as a tight end, mind you, how many times do you think it is?
Can I count them on my hands?
11 snaps.
Almost. Add a toe.
11 times Gesicki was asked to pass block. Besides that, he was basically a giant out slot receiver. He's one of these guys that he ran about 75% of his snaps from the slot. So again, and that's what we're looking to for opportunity, right? We want those are tight ends we're looking for. Now it's muddled a little bit with Waddle and with Tyreek Hill, but we talked about Gesicki in past episodes. Like they franchised him. They couldn't come to a deal. Gesicki is going to be a very young tight end. That's a giant wide receiver for sure. That's going to go out there and get paid and be somebody's option there at tight end.
I am really interested to see how he's used in this offense because coming from George Kittle, who was asked to block a ton, are they going to want him to block more? Are they going to use Smythe more than we would originally think because Gesicki isn't blocking?
There's also Hunter Long, who they drafted last year as well.
But that's another guy that's not going to be blocking.
He sucks. Yeah. Smythe, have you seen his legs?
He's a big dude. He's a
Shaheen's
big dude.
Massive too.
Yep. He's a big guy.
Yeah, I can see him.
It's gonna be interesting to play out because like all these guys to bring Cedric Wilson played most of his time in the slot. Gesicki all his time in the slot. Jalen Waddle as rookie year mostly played the slot. Tyreek Hill last year mostly played in the slot. So
wow,
it's gonna be very interesting how this.
That is a lot of loaded up slot, but. Gesicki can.
Never heard that before.
He can be put out wide as well. I mean, you know what I mean. Like you can get somebody with a big body out there.
Sure.
And don't you forget about Preston Williams? What the heck, man?
He's back.
Where do you think the value here is in Miami? Like, Tua. You think Tua is the value?
Nobody else, I think, is like a huge value. Like, don't get me wrong. I have Jalen Waddle on some teams. I have Tyreek Hill on some teams. Like, I think all of them are fine, but. When you're talking about who could make the biggest leap from where their ADP is now to where they could be, right now, Tua's ADP is around quarterback 18. He could jump into that fringe quarterback 1 range of quarterback 13, 12, and be really, really valuable for fantasy football purposes.
And that's huge for Superflex.
He could get replaced, too.
He could also get replaced.
He could suck this year, and they have all these weapons in place and just replace him like that.
It's entirely possible. The hard part is they don't have as much draft capital now as they once did to be able to do that. So they kind of are in on him unless they make some massive moves and make some trades getting the first.
So I think the Tua asking price is still like, for all the risk you have to take is going to be a little too high for me because everybody's on that hype. I think the value for me still, for my favorite buy in this team, is still Mike Gesicki. Now, is it right now? Absolutely not. But I think by time
you're hoping for a good landing spot.
I think where he sits in the tight end rankings around week 6 to 9, I think that's the buy period on Gesicki. That's where I'm going to start attacking for Gesicki shares right around week 6, 7, 8, right around there when he's like tight end 9 through 15, somewhere around there, where these other guys step up and outproduce him because of the weapons around him. Now, could he come in here and ball out and make these amazing one-handed catches because he's super athletic? They consistently did it at Penn State and in Miami so far. Yeah, but I think I'd want to buy in Gesicki this year low because I think the high will be next year.
Would you send a second rounder for him?
Gesicki?
Yeah.
A ton of premium? In a heartbeat.
Okay. That's what a couple trades I found on the trade browser.
I still have this
in tight end premium, a second round. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would definitely do that.
Yeah, I still have this vision. I'm telling you, it's just I don't know why it's in my gut. I have this vision of Gesicki in 2023, week 1, catching passes from Pat Mahomes. It's still locked in my head. He slides into that Travis Kelce role, and he becomes a top 4 consistent tight end. I think the upside is there. Like, no matter where he goes, he's going to go get paid, right? He's going to go get paid. The dream spot would be in Kansas City, right? To replace Travis Kelce, who's going to be 34 years old at this point. So for me, if he signs there, you're talking mid-first value. Like, his value would just skyrocket. We talked about this before. So my favorite buy mid-season is Mike Gesicki. And we'll probably circle back to that at some point as well come this season comes along. But I think the biggest chance for ADB jump, you mentioned Tua, but I mean, I don't see that a massive jump there for where he can go there. I think
you don't think he could be up to quarterback 12, 13?
Yeah, but I think right now he's going up the board as what? Quarterback 18? So you're talking about a couple spots, right? A couple spots. I think Gesicki, has a chance to jump much higher into a much harder tier to get into.
Yeah, I think that's true, but there's more variables that have to happen. Like, Tua just has to play well on his current team. He has to, 1, go into free agency, and then 2, get picked by the right team. There's more variables at play.
So I mean, that's the whole labyrinth of dynasty fantasy football, right? To find these doors, to find these windows that you can enter, right? That are good opportunities, right? Like, we are trying to find these guys. They're on the cusp to being those tier 1 guys, right? Because they're so hard to get these tier 1 guys as it is, especially at tight ends. So I think Gesicki has that opportunity. And yeah, is there a lot of different doors he has to walk through to get there? Right. For sure. But to me, it's the most enticing door that I'd want to walk through.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, if all that plays out, he's incredible. Absolutely incredible.
And the thing about Gesicki this year especially is he's going to be seeing, and we were talking about this before the show, the coverages that he is going to be seeing are going to be completely different than they were last year.
Oh, for sure.
Because, I mean, last year you had a rookie who was making some plays, but necessarily he wasn't getting all the coverage rolled towards him. And now you've got a guy going in his second year who's kind of established that he's a very explosive guy. And then you've got Tyreek Hill on the other side, who always changed coverages there in Kansas City and opened things up for guys like Travis Kelce and the running backs and stuff like that.
Sure.
So he might be just running wild with either a linebacker that can't keep up with him or a safety that's not big enough to cover him the entire season.
Which is, and I thought about that too, because it interests me because if they do keep those receivers somewhat short and they put Gesicki in the middle, you're right. There's no safety or linebacker in the NFL that can cover Mike Gesicki.
Right.
That can stop him essentially on a one-on-one basis.
And he's going to be seeing a lot more one-on-one coverage this year, just because of Tyreek Hill and just because Jalen Waddle. Both those guys are so explosive that it might not be you're always doubling Tyreek Hill, which they probably are. But if they're not, it's going to be Waddle. Waddle's the other guy that you got to worry about, and the other guy that's going to be getting doubled. It's not going to be Gesicki, and he's a freak too. So I mean, they're going to have a hard time covering this offense.
Very interesting,
very exciting offense to watch.
Very, very, very interested to see this play out. So, when I talk about navigating through these doors and these windows of dynasty fantasy football, a lot of times it's invested in the future, right? Like it's like, hey, I mentioned before, I like to trade my 25 first for a guy like Gabe Davis, right? Like. So the team that trades for that 25 first is making an investment in the league, in their team for the future. They have multiple firsts in the future. The worst thing that happens in some of these dynasty leagues is because as dynasty grows, you get people that get a little bit ahead of themselves, find themselves in too many leagues, and they quit. And all of a sudden, your league folds. And now you have this 25 first, but the league folded in 24. It did you no good. You invested your time, you invested your finances into this league, and right now, it was all for naught, right? Because a lot of times the funnest part about Dynasty is blowing it up in the rebuild, right? So what happens when the league folds? You go join another league. The hardest part is finding long-term value in dynasty leagues. And we're fortunate enough, we're analysts. We never have any problem finding people to join leagues with us.
Sure.
I've been in leagues that are 15 years old. I've been in leagues that are 18 years old, so we're blessed. If you want to get security, the best place to do that is ffpc.com. It's a site that launched in 2010. They have the largest high-stakes dynasty leagues out there. So whether you want to be a high-stakes player and play in leagues that are $2,500 to get in, or just a $77 leagues, they got leagues for you. They have never had a single league fold in FFPC for their dynasty leagues. That's how strong of a base and platform that they offer for dynasty fantasy football. And right now, you get in there and use the promo code NERDS, and they're going to give you $35 off any new FFP startup registration you have. And it's not just dynasty, right? Because in addition to dynasty leagues, they have a wide range of redraft leagues. They have contests on there starting at $5. So FFPC is more than just a dynasty platform, but it is the number one dynasty platform you can get on there. Sometimes you might have a hard time, like, dude, you might listen to this podcast like, I want to get in Dynasty League. I don't have 5 guys to get in there with, and that's a little risky. FFPC can solve that problem.
We're playing a 6-man league?
No, but the whole, you can't get a league off the ground.
I don't have 5 guys.
So I encourage
Or
everybody,
11.
get on there, ffpc.com, use the promo code NERD, save yourself $35, get into a high-stakes league or a new league, and just expand your dynasty rosters with security. Because, again, when you make all these trades, you want to make sure that you're invested into it long-term. Because that's what dynasty is. It's a long-term investment. And that starts year one. Because year one, when that league kicks off, there's going to be a top-tier teams, and there are going to be teams like, oh, I done messed this up.
That didn't work.
It's how you end up in so many dynasty leagues. So it's always like this, right? God, if I had just one more shot to
do it better
startup
this time.
They have
I'll do
like their
better.
own. They have like their own auction system too. Like you can sell your teams on the FFPC site and buy teams too. So
Even better.
Love it.
Even better. Check them out. Our friends, ffpcs.com, the safest place to play Dynasty Fantasy Football. Let's jump on. Jared, where are we on time?
we're about an hour.
We've only gotten 2 teams.
We're an hour?
Or 55 minutes. Yep.
We got to hustle.
No, we can't hustle.
No.
Well,
We'll get into it.
You want to be lackadaisical?
What do
Lazy?
we got to
Let's
do
just
about
take
this?
just take a deep breath.
Brisk pace.
Slow it down.
It's for the nerds.
Come on.
Dive
Well,
into
this
the-
one's for everybody. Actually.
Good thing I had that nitro brew.
They're all nerds.
All right, let's dive into the New England Patriots quarterback Mack Jones, Brian Hoyer, Bailey Zappi. Running back
Zap, zap.
Damian Harris, Romandre Stevenson, James White, Pierre Strong. Wide receiver Devontae Parker, Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers, Taekwon Thornton, Nelson Aguilar, and Ty Montgomery. Yes, the former running back of the Green Bay Packers. Tight end Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Devin Asiasi, and Dalton Keene. Now, this is a team that, again, that we thought that runs the football a ton. They change it up. They bring in Taekwon Thornton in the second round, who's a speedster. They draft Pierre Strong in the 4th round. They draft Bailey Zappi in the 4th round. They even draft Kevin Harris, who's a running back who I somewhat liked, in the 6th round out here. So it's a lot of muddled waters out here. Mack Jones, the rookie quarterback last year, comes in. He was quarterback 18, right? Comes in, he was quarterback 18, but he averaged 14 points per game, which was 29th best. I mean, he's behind guys like Trevor Siemian, Teddy Bridgewater, Taylor Heineke, Tua, Goff, Roethlisberger, Tyrod Taylor, and Sam Darnold on points per game basis. He says he was consistent and ended up being quarterback 18 overall. Had 4 top 10 fantasy football finishes in the last second half of the season there in 2021. What do you guys think of Tua? I mean, this is a guy that comes in.
Or Mac Jones.
Mack Jones. I mean, comes in, very solid quarterback, seems very safe as a rookie, so tons of room to grow here.
Sure.
Offers 0 rush upside. Only had 44 rush attempts last year.
Yes.
Not a mobile
0.
running back here. Where do you guys look at Mack Jones? Because I look at him as like that Andy Dalton quarterback, right? Like right where he is, like quarterback 18. I know he didn't have a lot of good weapons last year, but still, I don't think the weapons he needs like a dynamic receiver that's going to do a lot after the catch to really elevate him. But even then, will he ever be better than quarterback like 15? And it's hard to say because he's just a rookie. But what do you guys think?
I think he's a solid starter. I think he's, I think you can feel comfortable that he's going to be around for a few years. You know what I mean? Like New England's a very stable sort of organization. And from that standpoint, I feel good about him. I do think he, if he's in a 2 QB league, he's probably going to settle in as your number 2. He's never going to be a starter that you're always relying on. For Superflex, I think you're always going to be trying to do better as your second quarterback, at least for the next couple of years, unless he develops, unless he, there are signs that he's already come into camp and looked much better and like night and day compared to where he was starting off last year. So there's good reports coming out. That's what you want to hear. Obviously, it is early fluff piece camp type of stuff. So we'll see if it actually holds up when the real games start to get played, but I don't know that it's going to be. They did a similar thing with Tom Brady, right? When they brought him in, he wasn't chucking the ball all over the place early on. It was very much so relying on the running game, short dump off passes, this kind of stuff. Build your confidence
For a decade.
For a long time, and then it was kind of like, and then they started opening up and letting him chuck it deep, and then he was working every part of the field, and they kind of just built this guy up. And I think they're going to try to do the same thing with Mack Jones. So I don't think you're going to get a guy that's all of a sudden going to be explosive 2 years from now. I think it's going to be 2 or 3 or 4. That's like the slow burn here until they build this guy up to be like the full quarterback that they want.
Yeah, because Brady was not a high-end fantasy football quarterback for a while. I mean, he had Deion Branch early on, who was like a fantasy asset, and then obviously Randy Moss for those couple of years was dominating. Besides that, there wasn't a lot going on there in New England, relying on a run game.
Yeah, and I talked about it last year quite a bit, to where I really think Mack Jones is one of the more overrated quarterbacks right now. We see him in startups. Right now, his ADP is actually better than a guy like Kirk Cousins, which if he turned into Kirk Cousins, that would be beautiful. But I think that's the high end for a guy like Mack Jones. He's not gonna have the rushing yards. Doesn't have the receiving core right now to be able to put up a ton of yards. It's going to continue to probably be a run-first offense. We don't even know exactly who their offensive coordinator is right now.
I mentioned that so many times. It's ridiculous.
It's a weird situation.
Bill Belichick's not into titles.
He's not.
He's not.
You mean Sir Bill Belichick?
So I think he's going to continually be overrated because he had NFL success last year, and he's young. And those are two appealing things typically in Dynasty, but I think they're masking the truth of he's a mid to low end quarterback too, and he's going to continue to be there probably for the foreseeable future.
And he doesn't have flashy wide receivers, to your point, Rich. Like
Thornton, Devontae Parker,
Jacoby Myers, who was their number one receiver here. We'll talk about him in a second. You're right.
Kendrick Bourne, don't you forget about him.
And there's a lot of opportunity to get past. Trevor Lawrence, we expect to take a step forward this year. Justin Fields, we expect to take a step forward this year. Baker will probably do better than he did last year. We started all that last year. Deshaun Watson never even played last year. There's a lot of quarterbacks that have the opportunity to push him down.
Even Kenny Pickett,
a little bit.
Has an opportunity to do that as well.
And then at the running game, we said this is a running back first team. They have Damian Harris last year. Finished as running back 14 overall in PPR leagues, but again, that came off of 15 touchdowns, kind of going back to that LeGarrette Blount year where he had the double-digit touchdowns. So we would expect to see some touchdown regression there. There is also Romandre Stevenson, who's a quality running back there. He's expected to eat some of that Damian Harris workload as well. So right now, with this backfield, it's really hard to trust these guys when there's this many guys. It wouldn't surprise me if Kevin Harris found his way in there with Bill Belichick a little bit. Then you got Stevenson, you got Harris. So the number one value in Pierre Strong, the number one value always in New England, outside the guy scoring the 15 touchdowns, has always been a pass catcher and running back. Always. And that's going to be in James White if he plays.
That's a big if.
Big if. And then even Ty Montgomery might hold some value here because it always ends up being a pass catcher and running back that holds its value in New England. I think over the last 10 years, over 50% of the time, it's been a pass catching guy that's been a value in New England. So it's a murky situation when you have this many guys where you don't know. It's safe to assume Damian Harris is that guy. But inside New England here, at the running back and quarterback, there's nothing to write home about.
There have been, and Matt and I were talking about it last week or 2 weeks ago. There have been some rumblings about Romandre Stevenson being used a lot more on third down. If that is the case, he becomes immediately very interesting to me because we saw last year that he worked his way into the rotation, which for a lower end as far as where he was drafted running back is interesting because Damian Harris was redshirted as a rookie. He didn't play at all. He wasn't even active most of the time. So for him to be used that much early on, and he had a couple fumbles early, but then got right back on the horse and was used again, and even had some starts while Harris was out. He's the player for me that if there was a guy to break out this season from the Patriots as a whole, I think it's Romandre Stevenson. I'm not guaranteeing it by any stretch of the imagination, but for the price, that's the risk that I want to play.
He's the best buy.
Yep. In
New England, 100%. He's somebody coming out like I liked his tape. I think it came down to Romandre Stevenson and the late round backs I like the most. It was Romandre Stevenson and somebody else actually showed pretty well last year, but he's probably my favorite buy for cost to value ADP wise. Absolutely. For upside in New England. Definitely with Billy's going to get the best guy the opportunity. If you mentioned what you mentioned, third down opportunity, you're right. That could be a skyrocket move there in New England.
The one thing that no one's really talking about is New England is the only team right now that is over the cap. They have negative like $340,000 or something like that. It's not a crazy amount, but they're going to need to make some sort of move coming up here soon. So guys like James White, he has if they cut him, they get $1 million back as far as cap space. And they need it. So he might be a guy that gets cut just because of injury, and they can't guarantee his contract, so they're not going to have him on the roster week 1 because they're over the cap. So they're going to have to do some maneuvering here. They can also go to Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, who both have huge cap numbers right now. Hunter Henry right now is the second highest cap number on the team at $15 million, and Jonnu Smith is third highest.
Can they get out from them because they just signed him last year?
They can't get out, but they can restructure, and so we might see some of that kind of stuff happen before the season. But right now, I mean, they have tons of dead money: $19 million for Hunter Henry and over 26 for Jonnu Smith. So it's an interesting situation. They're going to have to make some room somewhere. We did forget to mention Nelson Aguilar as a weapon. I'll put that in.
Did I not say his name in the receivers?
I don't know. We didn't mention him when we were talking about it. Mack Jones' weapons.
Well, we haven't got to the receivers yet here too. So falling back in that running back situation, you do want to follow closely what happens here, because if you do end up cutting James White, if Romandre Stevenson obviously is on a waiver wire, you might want to check your waiver wire to see if Ty Montgomery is available, because it could become a weapon in this offense for 2022.
You never know with Bill Belichick.
And he, honestly, Ty Montgomery, I would guess more than not, is on your waiver wire.
Probably.
Yeah, and isn't J.J. Taylor still there too?
J.J. Taylor's there. Montgomery's a guy that
there's 7 running backs on the roster.
He only has like $300,000 of dead money as well, so he could be cut pretty easily to make some room. He's making 1.6 against the cap.
Or you keep him and you cut White.
Yeah, no kidding, no doubt.
And you mentioned receivers. I mean, Jacoby Myers last year is wide receiver 29 over last year. After being wide receiver 54 in 2020. And the team hasn't had a top 24 guy since 2017, which was Brandon Cooks. He was wide receiver 15. So it's been a long time since teams produced anything at receiver. So it's been like Deion Branch, Randy Moss, and Brandon Cooks. And that's it over the last like 15, 20 years.
And they got
Wes
rid of
Welker.
N'Keal Harry.
Oh, Wes Welker, sorry. Yeah. Well, they traded away N'Keal Harris to Chicago.
Right.
So Myers last year, he saw 126 targets. He was clearly the number one guy out there. They traded for Devontae Parker. They bring him in. It could be Star Wars. It could be a trap. I don't know. Bourne's, then they have, outside of Myers, who had 126 targets, they had Hunter Henry. He saw 75 targets. Kendrick Bourne saw 70. Aguilar saw 64. Jonnu Smith saw 45. So it's not like, it was pretty much a Jacoby Myers show, and that's it. Traded for Devontae Parker, who they gave up.
That is interesting.
They gave a fifth back, and they got Devontae Parker. Or they gave a third and got Parker and a fifth back. But they still gave a third-round pick for Devontae Parker. So they're still trying to solve this wide receiver structure.
He is a player that has been a wide receiver one before. I know it's been a couple seasons.
2019.
But he has been a wide receiver one. He's got the pedigree. Big thing for him has been health. If he can stay healthy.
Career.
Yeah, he can stay healthy. That he actually has the physical attributes, size, skill, ability to be a wide receiver one. I still don't think, I think best case scenario is if like he ended up as wide receiver 27, we'd be thrilled, but still great value for somebody that I talked about him as one of like my late round gem guys. He was like wide receiver 98 or something ridiculous like that.
He's 74.
He's 74.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's almost free at this point.
And Aguilar is a guy that they can cut and get $4 million against the cap too. So
he's gone.
He could be gone.
Yeah,
see ya.
Yeah, he sucks.
Taekwon Thornton literally fills his role, which is that outside deep threat perimeter.
We were catching him
runner.
unlike
So
Aguilar. Do you remember that with the guy
I
catching
do,
the babies out of it?
I mean, you mentioned Parker, 2019, 72 catches, 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns. So he's definitely capable. Has that big 82-inch wingspan. So a prospect I liked a ton coming out of Louisville, but just he's only had 1 year to put together. I think Aguilar's good as gone there because what they paid him, and I think they drafted Taekwon Thornton to fill that role. He's a second-round pedigree there too. At tight end, another pass-catching opportunity here. Henry, he had 50 catches for 603 yards and 9 touchdowns. So obviously all his production being tight end 10 came from the touchdown production. But still, I mean, he was tight end 13 on a points per game basis, so he's in that range of that mid-range tight end. He just needs a touchdown to come back. But overall, New England, I think the best buy for me is Romandre Stevenson. Like you said, and my favorite sell in Superflex would be Mack Jones. I love to just try and look elsewhere to see where I can get somebody who wants that. You know, those dynasty players that want that safe, that are afraid to like take the risk, and Mack Jones fits those profiles easily
to a T.
I love to sell those middle of the road dynasty teams that never get out of that middle of the road.
Right. Sell for Zach Wilson and hope for the best.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, Zach Wilson falls. We're gonna talk about him soon into that.
That was the segue I was trying to give you into the.
Yeah, he falls in that kind of Tua role. So let's talk about the New York Jets. Right, quarterback Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, Mike White, running back Breece Hall, Michael Carter, Tevin Coleman, Ty Johnson. Wide receiver, Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, Denzel Mims, Jeff Smith, Braxton Berrios. Tight end, C.J. Uzuma, Tyler Conklin, Jeremy Ruckert. The two big additions here, they bring in C.J. Uzuma. He had a 3-year deal for $24 million. Tyler Conklin comes in 3 years.
Tyler Conklin, that's who it is. We were saying Conklin last week, and we could not remember his first name.
Tyler Conklin comes in.
Mike
he signs
Conklin.
a 3-year deal for $20.25.
Jimmy Conklin? No.
So, I mean, started the quarterback. You mentioned by Zach Wilson. He wasn't good last year at all. Really didn't do a whole lot there. But, I mean, his arm's fantastic, right? Get the ball at all different angles. And to be fair, I mean, Becton was out last year. The offensive line was in shambles. His receivers, Elijah Moore was fantastic, but he got banged up out there. Corey Davis was banged up out there.
He missed time due to injury.
He missed time. So, even Wilson, he got hurt week 7. He hurt his knee. So after that, I mean, that's after his best game, honestly. So he has best game versus Titans, hurts his knee, comes back. Team's in shambles at this point. I mean, the biggest bright spot on the team is Elijah Moore.
For sure.
On this as well. But
I thought you were going to say the biggest bright spot was he banged his mom's friend.
That's a bright
Did you
spot
see
too.
CJ Uzama's shirt today?
No.
Man,
He had a Time Person of the Year, and it was Zach Wilson.
It was great. It's
Awesome.
the biggest news out there for him. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does here in 2022 with the new run game. Also, offensive line should be better with Becton coming back here as well. The receiving core, they invested 2 quality tight ends, veteran tight ends. The receiving core, Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, and Garrett Wilson is dynamic. Elijah Moore is out there doing, I mean, Elijah Moore, part of the season, looked like he was the next big-time wide receiver.
I think Berrios is kind of underrated, too, as like a second slot type of guy.
He's a very solid NFL guy,
not for fantasy. Yep.
Yeah, not for fantasy. But Moore came out last
to help
year.
Wilson.
But he can help Wilson. It was my point. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, he put up big games. I mean, he was wide receiver coming out in the second half of the season. He had a week where he was wide receiver 1 overall, wide receiver 3 overall, wide receiver 8 overall. Finished as a wide receiver 3 2 times as well. So he came out here and had some really big games. For me, he was somebody that I saw a note on here that from the middle of the season, he was like wide receiver 3 overall, like somewhere in the middle of that season.
And he started slow. There was a hamstring injury or something at the beginning of the year. I couldn't remember what it was. Sorry.
It's Elijah Moore for me that puts the biggest damper on Garrett Wilson.
Sure.
And Garrett Wilson is a dynamic receiver, probably the number 1 receiver I had coming out of this draft class, like from a film standpoint. But from a dynasty and a fantasy football standpoint, I would move him down. Like if I had my rookie draft today, I would take Drake London ahead of him. I would take Treylon Burks ahead of him, and I would take Jameson Williams ahead of him.
You do this all the time, and then you get screwed.
And then you get mad
I
at
do,
yourself.
but it just
you get mad.
Like, why do I change it based on situation?
Yeah.
well,
Talent will emerge, my friend.
I agree with that, but I think Elijah Moore is so talented as well. He needs He would need Elijah Moore not to be as sweet as he is. And Elijah Moore is just super sweet.
Or maybe that helps him because it opens it up and he's not facing the number one corner all the time.
It could, or he gets the number one corner and opens up for Elijah Moore, and Elijah Moore to the moon. But they need Zach Milson to take a step forward here.
They
bring
both
in
do it.
They bring
Corey
in Brees
Davis
Hall.
is the man.
Corey Davis is a solid guy there.
CJ Uzoma, tight end 1. That's what just happened.
Oh my gosh. No, Denzel Mims.
So we would expect Wilson to probably play the slot, right? Like with Jamison Crowder leaving, probably that's where Wilson would kind of slide into that role there.
I would expect him to play the X probably. But I mean, they might have Wilson or they might have Corey Davis playing the X. I would assume Moore would probably go to the slot before Wilson.
I would think that also.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. It's gonna be interesting to see how it plays out. But like,
I think Wilson could do both. I think
Wilson can do any
I
of
think
them.
Moore can do both also.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? Like Moore is a guy that is probably a slot body that can play both, and Wilson's a little bit leaner and taller.
Wilson's so good off the line and stuff. He can do whatever he wants.
Yes.
I like Wilson a ton. I think he's a fantastic player as well. But I think from a fantasy football output,
If you want to say for this season, sure, but for Dynasty, I'm still taking Garrett Wilson where I had him before.
you're taking him number one.
Yes, I would still draft him as the top receiver.
So I think today
also.
I would take Drake London over him today.
in redraft for sure, but not in Dynasty.
I love Elijah Moore. I still think Garrett Wilson's a better asset and a better receiver.
I agree.
That's probably fair. I'm probably overthinking it here.
Yeah.
He's proven though.
More. Well, in a small
Damn
sample
good.
size, yes.
347 snaps for Moore out wide last year, 125 from the slot.
There you go. You can do both.
Yeah. Well, we always
Can
do that.
do it
His
all.
hands are so damn.
So good.
Those are two really good weapons for Zach Wilson.
Absolutely.
He's got to put together this year because
And-
those are dynamic young weapons.
And when I said earlier that the other team that I'm really watching is also in this division, it's the Jets. They could have a dumpster fire of a season, or they could have a Bengals-like ascension where all of a sudden all of these assets look amazing and everybody's excited about this second-year quarterback and these young receivers. And I mean,
young running back.
like there's a lot of parallels between the two.
They really are.
But that doesn't mean it's going to play out like the Bengals. We'll see. It could be an absolute dumpster fire. It could be incredible. It could be anywhere in between. So that's what's going to make them so fun to watch this year is I really don't know where they're going to end
That's
up.
why they brought CJ Uzama. He's going to bring that.
Bring the Bengals culture.
Yep.
And they have a new dynamic running game, bringing Brees Hall
Yeah, they do.
high in a second. And then you can't throw away, you just can't discard Michael Carter there either. Well,
No, absolutely
I mean,
not.
Michael Carter showed last year.
could.
No, I disagree. I mean, Michael Carter showed, just like Chase Edmonds last year, he was, when it came to yards after contact and missed tackles, like Michael Carter is pretty dynamic last year.
He is. He's a good player.
There was a lot of hype going into him this year. He had multiple games last year where he finished as a top 24 fantasy football running back. They use him as that 3-down back multiple times. Now, clearly, this is going to be the Brees Hall show.
For sure. They traded up into the early second to get
Do you like Brees Hall, Rich?
Oh, dude, I'd be his baby daddy. So for me, I think I'm very curious to see just how much they're going to use Wilson and Moore together. I'm really curious to see how they're going to use Michael Carter and Brees Hall because it doesn't matter how dynamic Brees Hall is, which he's pretty dynamic. I think if Michael Carter's capable, they're going to use him as well. And I think some people are just willing to slip. I mean, and almost to the point where like Michael Carter is probably a good buy in Dynasty right now because the Brees Hall has just torpedoed his value. And if Brees Hall goes down and his offense steps up in the receiving game, Michael Carter has low end running back 1, high end running back 2 upside on a week in, week out basis that time that Hall misses. And if somehow he can find his way into that third down row, that PPR role, right? He's a third down running back. He can somehow offer that J.D. McKissic, Nyheim Hines, high-end running back 2 upside as well on this team. Definitely if Zach Wilson can put together, and they got to rely on the running game a little bit.
I think the hard part is I think we are looking more at Nyheim Hines because I think it's going to be a similar situation as Jonathan Taylor, where early they utilize multiple backs, they ease him in, but once Brees Hall hits his stride, I think it's going to be similar to Jonathan Taylor, where it's just so tough to take him off the field because he's so dynamic.
And he could do it. He could do it in the passing game as well.
Yeah,
So
he's
easy.
even better in the receiving game than Jonathan Taylor
Absolutely.
He's good.
Oh, he's really good.
So good.
And you're right. But Michael Carter's still a great.
He's still a good player. It's not that he's a bad player at all. That's just what I worry about. Is I think once he really hits his stride, it's going to be.
So who's your favorite buy here?
CJ Uzama.
Mine's still Elijah Moore.
I think because of that, I think I'm probably going to go Garrett Wilson because I think there are a lot of people that are thinking similarly to you, to where like he's a rookie. There's other rookies that landed in better spots. So I think it's probably Garrett Wilson for me. But it's funny. Right now, their ADP is like extremely similar.
Really?
Garrett Wilson's wide receiver 22, Elijah Moore's wide receiver 34.
Really?
Mm-hmm. As of July 13th.
Okay, because like in most of the startups and Scott Fishbowl and stuff like that, I've seen them go back to literally back to back multiple times. I was in a startup recently where they went back to back, and then even in the AMA today, he's like, a guy was like, I'm on the 5-6 turn, and these two guys are available. Do I take Garrett Wilson or do I take Elijah Moore? So I've seen them put together often. So I'm surprised to see that there's that big of a gap.
What was the numbers? I'm sorry. I was looking at something else.
Wide receiver 34 is Elijah Moore, and Garrett Wilson's wide receiver 22.
Oh, wow.
ADP.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm buying more there.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I would dangle. I like Garrett Wilson a ton, but I would still dangle him out there. See what kind of value he can get off his, before he even touches the ball, and see where he can go out there. Because it could be Elijah Moore be the number one receiver on this team. It could be.
It's possible.
So yeah, I'd probably be dangling Wilson. See what I get. Maybe I get a 23 first and a receiver, like another receiver I like.
Zach Wilson's QB 21.
That's about right. For
that
him.
feels right. Yeah.
I mean, the biggest he's the biggest risk.
I get that feels right, but then we're seeing Justin Fields come off the board as quarterback 12, 13. We're seeing Trey Lance come off the
16,
board. Similar range. We're seeing all of these guys go in like the late
Lance,
second,
QB12.
early third.
They have different kind of upside though. Rushing upside, all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
They do, but Zach Wilson's not immobile.
He's not immobile, but he's not going to get.
But the funny thing is,
600 yards.
we baked in for all of these other guys like this bump, which none of them necessarily deserved on situation.
I get that.
The Niners didn't do anything to help Trey Lance this offseason as far as offense goes. The Bears sure as heck didn't do anything for Justin Fields this offseason. Trevor Lawrence, a little bit they helped him, but not a ton.
But all those guys feel a little high for me, though.
Sure, but
You know
that's
what I
what
mean?
I'm saying. I don't know that the gap between Zach Wilson and all of those guys should be this big, because if there's anybody that got a supporting cast bump this season, it's clearly Zach Wilson out of all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And last year, all of them performed roughly the same. Like, none of them were that great. I don't know why such a
than Mack
disparity
Davis Mills.
of all of them. But, well, see, that's the thing. Mac Jones really didn't perform that well.
Davis Mills had good games.
He performed like real life football.
Real life football better, yes, absolutely.
They definitely insulated Zach Wilson the most.
Right. So that's why I don't understand the discrepancy between all of those other second-year quarterbacks and then Zach Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, if you're willing to get the Tua bump, you got to get the Zach Wilson bump as well.
Exactly.
Out of value, I'm taking Zach Wilson over all of them. Like, Zach Wilson's one of my favorite grabs in Superflex startups because he goes so late. Even Scott Fishbowl, he went so late there. So he's probably the best bang for your buck when you're always searching for those young quarterbacks. Right now, there's such a big pool of them of mystery. It's like, and the heaviest apple, and when you're bobbing, is going to be on the bottom is going to be Zach Wilson. So he's going to be the easiest one.
The heaviest one went that sink.
That would sink all the way to the. So you got to
really stick your head in.
But less people want that.
That makes sense. Okay. I'm understanding the illustration now.
I got you.
Okay, I'm just saying. Yeah.
It took me a second, but I'm there.
You know what I mean? But
we just needed to. We need to
talk
it out.
So for buy-wise, he's probably the best buy.
Probably.
Definitely in Superflex leagues on the Jets. Well, that's it. It's a long show. Well, how many minutes are we at?
Almost an hour and a half.
We really wrapped up. These shows usually go an hour and a half. The Nerd Show will be about an hour.
They
usually
deserve
we have
it.
no commercials.
No ads. No,
They deserve it.
That's right.
So support our sponsors at Prize Picks and FFPC, and make sure you get a free shirt and stuff. And of course, support the Nerd Herd. Join up. I mean, listen, if you've been waiting all summer, because it's been a Dynasty hot boy summer. We've all been enjoying it. Look, I'm looking tan.
Dude,
right?
you're so tan.
Oh,
Sit
look
it,
at
boy.
me.
Sit it, boy.
Yeah, so close. It's the only best thing I got going.
Look at that forehead. Woohoo! Ooh, man, no hats this past week. Huh?
But as the season gets closer, maybe you've been waiting. Now's the time to get a jump on, right? Like, it's going to be pedal to the metal from here forward. Between the team coverages to in-season talk to then, most importantly, the after-season talk. Make sure you get on there. Nerd Herd, dynastynerds.com. Check it out. We have an app coming soon. We have a lot of stuff to display at the Expo. And again, the Expo coming up here in 2 weeks. And FF Expo.
Canton, Ohio.
Make sure you check it out. Not only will all of us be there the whole weekend, but literally almost any analyst you could think of we'll be out there.
Yeah, go to thefantasyfootballexpo.com.
Yeah, check us out. We'll have a booth.
August
All of us will
12th
be out there.
through the 14th, Canton, Ohio.
Your favorite analyst, most likely outside of like Matthew Berry, will be there.
Yeah.
Mike Clay, Pat Doherty, Rob Wozniak.
It's fun,
Rich
man. It's a
Dotson.
good time.
Yeah.
There's a ton
Scott Fish, Ryan
of
McDowell.
events that happen throughout the whole weekend that you can go to and stuff.
Tons of good times. So that's it. We'll be back next week breaking down some more divisions. But now let's jump into the NFC East.
Adios.